Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are staying safe. So guys, I wanted to talk about a fight, potential fight, a rumored fight. Apparently Eddie Hearn has been talking with Chris Eubank's promoter, Callie Sowland, and they're talking about a catchweight fight with Kell Brook. Now, a lot of people are upset about this fight. A lot of people are saying, well, this fight's ridiculous. Kell Brook should retire. Kell Brook's finished. Kell Brook's career's over. You know, he just got knocked out by a welterweight in 4 or 5 rounds. He can't take a punch anymore. He's got glass eyes. And Kell Brook will obviously consider a fight with Eubank because it's a good opportunity for him at middleweight. But when he said catchweight, I didn't quite understand that because Eubank, I don't think has fought below 160. Eubank's a very big middleweight, and I think he would struggle to make anything below 160. So I don't think Eubank would come down below 160 in that fight, because I don't think Eubank could possibly come below 160. Eubank's quite a big middleweight. He's tall, and he's quite a well-built guy. I think it'd be very difficult for him to come down below 160 pounds. But that aside, what do I make of the fight? Here's the thing. I don't really think Kell Brook's got anywhere to go. I don't think he can fight a welterweight. I think the ideal weight for him would be 154. But right now, he's got to go where the opportunities are at. The fights against 154-pounders, who's he going to fight at domestic level? Chris Eubank at middleweight's a big fight. It'd probably pay him 7 figures. It's a good payday in the UK, right? And it's a great chance for Kell Brook to become relevant again. Because if Kell Brook pulls off a win against Chris Eubank, he's a relevant fighter again. See, a lot of people, the people that say you're washed up and you're finished and your career's done and you're finished, you're only 1 win away from catapulting your career back onto track. You're only 1 fight away from people taking you seriously again. People always remember your last performance, and that's what you'll be remembered for. They always remember your last performances. And if you go into a fight that, you know, people don't expect you to win and you win, all of a sudden you become relevant again, don't you? If Kell Brook goes in there against Chris Eubank, he'll become relevant again. Now, do I think Kell Brook should fight Chris Eubank? No, I don't think it's a good fight for him. I think it's a dangerous fight for him at this point. I think Eubank's quite relentless. He's quite fast. He's fast of hands. And that's probably a risky, dangerous fight for Kell Brook right now, just because of the fact that he's past his prime. He didn't look too great against Crawford. But the matter of fact is, if Kell Brook wants to continue fighting, where does he go? Right, the welterweight fight again, to fight at welterweight. I know people are gonna say, "Oh, Amir Khan." Listen, man, that fight, Amir Khan's gonna want that fight at welterweight. I don't see the fight happening. I don't think Kell Brook is a welterweight. I think Amir Khan's not gonna want to go above welterweight. The fight that makes sense for Kell Brook is probably a Eubank fight. You know, and most importantly, here's the thing. I know people may say, well, their careers are done now. They should just fight each other and make a payday. But it's all right you saying that at home sitting on your couch. But they probably don't believe that. And the fact is, a fight with Khan and Brook, what does that really do for their careers at this point? It's not a fight that the British public are interested in or care of, for that matter, anymore. Right? It's not a fight that does anything for their career. If either of them, whoever wins that fight, what does that do for their career? Nothing, because where does the winner go from there? For example, Amir Khan's been called out by David Avanesian. If Amir Khan's serious about fighting decent fighters and fighting top names and, you know, becoming a credible fighter in the welterweight division again, that's a relevant fight. That's a fight that he should take. That's a fight that he should consider. Because for me, personally, that's a winnable fight and a fight that he can become relevant again. Now, Kell Brook, he should consider Eubank fight. Although Eubank's bigger and strong, yes, I get that. But Kell Brook's not a welterweight. He can't fight at welterweight. He either fights at 154 or 160. And 154 for me, there's too many killers at that weight. And there's not that many great domestic fights. Maybe Liam Smith. But Kell Brook probably looks at Liam Smith as as a guy that's not going to give him a huge payday, and it's probably something that even though Liam Smith is more credible than Eubank, Liam Smith was a former world champion. But Eubank's a bigger name, Eubank's a bigger star. That makes more money for Kell Brook. That fight makes a lot more noise. So I can understand why Chris Eubank and Kell Brook is being seen as a big fight, and why Cali Saunan, Chris Eubank, all of those guys would want to see that fight, is because they probably look at the fight and think it's a big fight. It's a big fight. If we can sort out the weight class, it's a fight that can definitely, sell and make these guys money. And it gives for someone like Kell Brook an opportunity to catapult himself back into world level contention, whether it's at 154 or 160. Because if he can beat Chris Eubank is on the verge of fighting for a world title, right? He's on the verge of fighting guys like Jamal Charlo and these type of guys. So Kell Brook could put himself in a position where he could be in line to fight one of those. So the Eubank fight for me is a good fight. I don't think Kell Brook can win the fight, but that's my opinion. I just think for his career point of view, I think if he's got any ambition, then I think it's a great fight. Because like I said, the Khan fight for him doesn't do anything anymore. Unless Kell Brook's only got the ambition, he wants one more payday and then just wants to hang it up, then that's another matter, right? If they both have that kind of ambition where they just want to have one more payday, which a lot of the fans do, but they might not have that. Brook might not feel that he has one more payday, and he might want to still go on and have more fights. Remember, these are young guys. Brook's only 34. Khan's only 34. They're not that old. There's guys older than him still fighting. Yes, I know Khan's had a very long career, very tough career, and same with Brook. But again, I just think both of them fighting each other doesn't make sense right now. For me, I think the fight that makes sense is Chris Eubank, Kell Brook. I think that makes a lot of sense for Kell Brook, just because I think he's got nowhere to go, personally. Kell Brook has nowhere to go. Kell Brook, for me, is at the end of the road. He needs a big fight. He needs a fight which, can catapult him back into some kind of contention. And Eubank is that fight. Eubank is a fight. Khan is not that fight, because both of them are seen as washed up. If you get two washed up fighters fighting one another, or perceived as washed up, right? By then, whoever wins that fight, you just beat up a washed up fighter. None of them are going to get credit for beating each other for that fight. Whereas if they beat a guy that people see as a contender, like Khan beating Avanesian or Kell Brook beating Eubank, it'd be seen as a credible win, and their name would be back in there for world level contention. Do you understand where I'm coming from? So that's why I don't think it's a bad fight, even though I think Kell Brook would lose. But again, that's for Kell Brook to prove people wrong. I do think in Kell Brook's prime, he would have been favoured to win that fight. But nevertheless, that even in his prime would have been a hard fight, because Eubank's a bigger man. But in his prime, I would have favoured Kell Brook to win that. Listen, I just think it's a right move for Kell Brook. It's a big payday. It's a big payday, and a fight which could put him back onto world level contention. Now, a lot of you may think, Imran, what are you talking about? Kell Brook's finished. How can he get back to world level contention? He's not going to beat Chris Eubank. But at the end of the day, he believes he can. If he's fighting Chris Eubank, Kell Brook believes he can beat Chris Eubank. Kell Brook believes he still can compete at world level, maybe at high weight. Maybe he believes against Crawford he was drained. And he feels he'll be much better at, a catch weight or 160. Maybe he feels like that. He performed well against Golovkin up until he got his eye damaged. But again, that was a different Kell Brook with a different mindset to the one now. The one now is obviously more worried about his eye. The one now is not the same fighter. The one now showed against Crawford that he can't take the same kind of punches that he could back in the past. And Eubank is very ferocious, very fast. It puts his punches together very well. So, if I'm honest with you, it's a hard fight for Kell Brook. But, again, never say never in this sport. Like I said, you're only one fight away from becoming relevant again. You're only one fight away from becoming a star again. That's how boxing is. People are saying you're finished, you're washed up, and then you put in a great performance, you win, and that's it. You're back in world level contention. Kell Brook, with a win over Chris Eubank, can become relevant again. I don't think he wins, and I think a lot of people think that it's a dangerous fight for his health, etc. But really, any fight's a dangerous fight for his health. You know, any fight could be dangerous at this point because he looks like a guy with that's damaged goods. So any fight could be a dangerous fight. But like I said, if he still feels he can fight, then Eubank's not a bad fight. Eubank's not a big puncher. He's not a big puncher. He never has been. Yes, I know Kell Brook's not a middleweight, so maybe to Kell Brook he might be a big puncher. But nevertheless, I do think a lot of people are looking too much into the Crawford fight. I think Crawford was always going to beat Kell Brook. You know, Crawford's a pound for pound guy. You know, Kell Brook was fighting at a weight class that, you know, he shouldn't really be fighting at. He's fighting against one of the best in the world. You know, so there's no shame in losing to Terence Crawford. He was always going to lose that fight if you know your boxing, right? But this Eubank fight is a more winnable fight because even though Eubank's bigger than Crawford, Eubank hasn't got the skills. Eubank has shown that against a certain level of opponent, he can be beat. You know, if you apply a certain type of style and certain type of tactics, Eubank can be found out. And Kell Brook has that kind of skill set and that boxing, I believe, IQ that can give him those sort of problems. Stick a jab in his face, move, not to stand and have a toe. So Kell Brook likes to stand and have a fight. He can't do it in this fight. He has to box and move. Stick that jab in his face. Stick that jab and move. You know, Eubank has a lot of trouble. He starts becoming very wild when you stick and move and you box. So Kell Brook, for me, he can pull that off. He can pull that off, but it's a dangerous fight. He'd have to go through fire to pull it off. But again, I don't think it's one that should be. I don't think Kell Brook should be dismissed. I think Kell Brook's a quality fighter. He's a quality fighter, and I think a fight with him and Eubank, I like it. I think it's a good fight, and I think it's a fight he can win. I know people are saying he can't win. I'm not going off the Crawford fight. Crawford's a pound for pound best in out there. You know, why are we judging Chris Eubank? Why are we comparing Chris Eubank to Terence Crawford? I know Chris Eubank's bigger and he's a middleweight, but he doesn't have the skill set of a Crawford. Crawford's an exceptional talent, once in a generational kind of, you know, one in a generation kind of fighter. That guy is a generational fighter. You know, guys like that don't come very often. So Chris Eubank's not that. So again, for me, it's a competitive fight. I know people are going to obviously think that Brook's going to get destroyed, and possibly so. But nevertheless, I think it's not a bad fight. I think I wouldn't mind seeing it personally. But leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you think Kell Brooks shouldn't fight Chris Eubank? What do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.